So I went from making $50,000 a year in education to making $105,000 in my first year in tech sales. So I also got a flexible schedule. I was given 20 weeks of fully paid maternity leave, and I didn't have to go back to school for extra education. I wasn't having to, climb the corporate ladder for years to pass six figures, and I was not having to desperately convince people to buy my product. So I'm Sarah. About 1.5 years ago, I pivoted out of education into tech sales. Now I'm working from home, and I'm making more than double my salary. And I'm finishing up my 20 weeks of fully paid maternity leave, which has been amazing. So if this resonates with you, maybe you're an educator, looking to pivot into tech sales, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I'm going to be launching a bunch of free content on exactly how I went from education and pivoted into tech sales. So I don't want you to miss what's coming next. And I also hope that other teachers that might find this helpful will see my content. So I had always dreamed of being a teacher, but the reality of that hit really hard my first year teaching. I was getting there, before 7 a.m. and then I was staying up late, lesson planning. So I was just physically and emotionally just drained. So I knew that I needed to change, but it wasn't just about the money. So, I was craving, time freedom. I wanted to kind of be able to plan my own schedule and have more flexibility there. I also wanted career growth, so something that I could promote quickly and with kind of uncapped earning potentials. You are very much capped in the education world. And then most importantly is I just wanted energy back. That first year in teaching, I was just completely exhausted, and I wanted energy for my marriage, for my health, for my friends, for my church. And most importantly, I wanted energy to be a mom. I knew I wanted to be a mom in, the short future. Now I have a 4-month-old, little boy. I'm just loving all the time that I'm getting with him. And so those are some of the things that were really, important for me as I was looking for a job. And so a little bit about how I discovered tech sales. So coincidentally enough, my husband was a former physical therapist. So he was in, the healthcare industry. I'm a former teacher. And so we both knew that we needed a career change. So something that would support the life that we wanted to build. And so some checklists that we started working on were, again, high income potential. So SDRs are often making about $70,000 to $100,000 in their first year. And then within 3 to 5 years, it's, you're able to clear $200,000, $300,000. So it's pretty uncapped when it comes to finances. We also wanted a flexible schedule. We wanted to be present for our future, now present child and more children to come. And we didn't want to be stuck in this really rigid, schedule, these really rigid hours that, in healthcare and teaching, you were very much stuck in that rigid hours. I think I got 10 days of PTO. Of course, you have to be there super early to greet the kids, stay late to finish up lesson planning. It was just rough. And so lastly is I didn't have the time or the money to go back to school. I did not want to go back and get a new degree. That just wasn't even an option that crossed my mind. And so we kept seeing kind of tech sales pop up, Reddit threads. We were deep, rabbit holing down Reddit, YouTube videos, LinkedIn posts. We truly did all of our research. And we just quickly realized it really checked all the boxes that, I told you about, all those things that we were looking for. But personally, I was really hesitant. I think my husband was much more gung-ho about jumping into it. But I was very hesitant. A lot of my coworkers were like, don't go into sales. Sales is terrible. It's scary. You have to cold call. You're convincing people to buy your product. Don't do it. And so I think I pictured sales as being really, pushy, pushing people to buy your product, things that they may not even need. And it scared me. And that's when I actually learned about value-based selling. And so it's actually not about being pushy. I learned that sales is actually more about educating people. And if you work for a product that you believe in, it's a good product. I am just simply educating the potential customers on the product. And, if it solves a problem for them, then they will buy it. And at my current company, I fully believe in the product that I'm selling. So I simply am educating potential customers, and oftentimes they want to purchase it because it solves a problem. So it actually is much of a teaching and educating type of role sales is than that kind of pushy, sleazy, buy my product type of role. And so once I realized that and I learned about value-based selling, which I highly recommend you, do your research on, I was fully in. I was all into sales and tech sales specifically because tech sales is where you're going to get that uncapped, finance potential, that uncapped salary. And so I had no experience in tech sales. My husband didn't have experience in tech sales. We were in education, healthcare couldn't be more opposite than tech sales. And I didn't have anyone, telling me, what to do. Nobody in my circle, no one in my friend group had any experience in tech sales. And so I should say me and my husband, we really went to work. So we completely revamped our resume. We had to work on what skills are transferable into tech sales. The same with interview questions. Interviewing for a tech sales role is completely different than interviewing for education, and really having to to train myself to think of, okay, what skills are transferable, what skills are going to really highlight and get me hired in a sales role. Additionally, had to update my LinkedIn. Literally had never used LinkedIn in my life until I started looking for a sales role. I had to start studying and learning the lingo. So things like pipeline and KPIs, quota, value prop, you may not have any idea what I'm, talking about. I had to start learning all of that vocabulary. Additionally, I started, reaching out to hiring managers, trying really, really hard to get interviews and things like that. And so I also had to create this bizarre interview. I had to create this 30-minute long sales presentation for one of the interviews that I did to present in my interview. And then again, like I said, just practicing interview questions day and night, because they're a completely different mindset than interviewing for an education role. So I did land an SDR role my first year. I was, like I said, my W-2 came in. My W-2 came in and I made $105,000 my first year in tech sales. And that being said, 9 months of that year, I was, pregnant with our first child. And so the best part is now I'm currently finishing up my 20 weeks of completely paid parental leave, maternity leave. Again, I think in teaching, I got would have had 12 weeks of unpaid. I still remember one of my coworkers saying, make sure you save up all your personal days, make sure you save up all your sick days, because when you have a baby, you're going to have to burn through all of that. And so there is no, true paid maternity leave in the education world. Same with my husband. He also gets 20 weeks of paid paternity leave, which is, absolutely insane. And so these are just things that I never thought were possible until I started looking to the tech sales space. And so like I said, again and again, this career path has just given us, freedom that we've been craving. Now, we're completely debt free. We just bought our first home here in Austin. And because of, our maternity and pat leave, and once I go back to work, my flexible schedule, I'm able to just soak up every moment with my little baby boy. And so I couldn't be more thankful for pivoting out of education into tech sales. I have no regrets. I'm not desperately convincing people to buy my product. I genuinely love what I'm doing currently. And so I know this can feel like a lot, especially, I remember when I was in the classroom, I was exhausted. I was just trying to make it to, Friday, or trying to make it to my next long weekend or my next, break. I was there too. I get it. It's really difficult to think about, pivoting out of education. And so what I'm doing is I'm actually opening up personalized coaching sessions to help you do exactly what I've already done, which is pivot out of education into a flexible, high income tech sales career. And so if that's something that's interesting to you, I have a link below. It's my calendar link. I would love to meet with you and talk to you about this. So book a time that works for you. And I'm super excited to hopefully meet some of y'all.